Hello, movie lovers. Welcome home. My name is Amy Henserling, and you are listening to Watch This List Unplugged. This is the Hidden Gems episode with Bob McCulley, who
Hi.
is hello, Bob, who is
Hi.
very enthusiastic as always, and is a returning guest on my show, and is one of the few of my friends who has his own podcast that I have had the privilege of being on.
hmm
So I'm super excited about that. Bob, tell us about your pod with Jeremiah and all the exciting stuff you have going on.
So, Split Your Head. We've been working on that for a few months, and we finally put out our first episode. So by the time that this airs, I think our second episode will be out. And it's a podcast that we're just covering mostly a lot of horror, but also hitting up cult films, independent film, underground film. And we're going to just be discussing a lot of directors, genres, while also interviewing different filmmakers. So our second episode, which will be dropping very soon, as I said, it should be out just before this drops, I think. It's an interview with Jonathan Doe, who's an extreme horror filmmaker, has his own podcast, production companies, all that stuff. He's hyper creative and was like an encyclopedia of extreme horror. So I highly recommend
Checking
checking
them out.
that out. So we've been just working away at that and interviewing more directors. And the episode that Amy was on, we had her come on to talk about midnight movies after I subjected her to Nightmare Weekend. I figured, like, Amy, you come on and explain the horrible experience you had.
Bob just had to remind me of that. We were getting along so well. So Bob, I'm very excited about this. We ended up talking for over 2 hours, and I felt kind of bad. But it's surely going to be edited.
It's maybe an hour now. We had to cut out a lot.
Yeah, that was a lot of banter. So fun banter, but still, I was like, we can't subject everyone to our shenanigans.
Right.
Bob, I am curious why you landed on Split Your Head. How'd you come up with that name? Because it was originally called 13th Floor.
Right. The 13th Floor, that name was attached to the website that Jeremiah had going for a few years. And at this point in time, we're not sure if the website's going to continue on past this year. But the podcast seems to be the main venture that we're focusing on. So we figured, let's get a new name so it's its own thing. And it can continue on past this year and hopefully fly out into the world and spread seeds of magic and
horror
stuff. Horror, but Split Your Head, I think we were just trying to come up with a name that reflects that visceral, like, gnarly quality of horror films, while also being kind of like a metaphor for, analyzing things and opening up your mind to things, So Split Your Head, like, we'll crack your head open with an axe so that you can absorb some new ideas in films and creatives and all that stuff.
I love it. I think that the hardest thing to do, honestly, is to come up with a catchy name. And coming up with a name that nobody's thought of and that isn't taken is very difficult. Like, I'm amazed that I have watchthislist.com, quite frankly, because it sounds like something that would have existed already or something that would have been obvious. But it wasn't taken anywhere. Like,
Sweet.
YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and everything. So it's a journey, but I really like it. I like Split Your Head. It's very punchy, like in your face.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we wanted to go for. So
yeah, and cool. I will be posting my episode as soon as Bob releases it. Right now, it is what? We are at the end of May 22nd. So I think you said that it was going to be like in June.
Should be early June. Yeah, I don't have the exact date in my head, but I'm releasing episode 2 tomorrow, which you said would be May 23rd. So it should be 2 weeks after that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've got my calendar right here. June 6th. If you're
releasing
on a Tuesday schedule.
Yeah, we should be, unless something explodes or, the world ends. And
the world ends.
June 6th. Yeah.
On 6/6. Appropriate.
Oh,
But it's
yes.
6623. We're not in
I
6666.
know
Okay.
that sounds
We're
lame.
probably not gonna
But two
well.
times three is six. So
Oh, great. We're all
think
gonna
about
die
that.
on the day.
We're
On the
dying.
day my episode is released is the day that we die.
So everyone listens to it and then they just die.
7 days later.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually I'm quite excited about Bob's
Cool.
picks. His first one is Verhoeven,
Mm-hmm.
who is a director I really, really like, and I like him even more now.
Yeah, he rules.
Um Bob picked the movie Spetters,
Mm-hmm.
which is a 1980 Dutch film. And the title, Bob, I don't know if you know. Do you know what the title means? I looked it up.
Yeah, I looked it up when I first watched the film, but go ahead, Amy.
Okay, it means um, good-looking people, basically, like
Oh,
hunks.
wow. Oh, it's hunks? That's
Mm,
amazing. Okay.
yeah.
I
So
don't think I knew that. Huh.
as we all know from Verhoeven, he loves hot people,
Yeah.
Starship Troopers, and Basic Instinct, and
Yeah.
Showgirls, which I don't want to discuss. So he is a fan of good-looking people, and actually has a movie that's named after such a term. So I thought that was
Mm-hmm.
hilarious and on brand for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It fits so well into the whole like vibe and mission of this film, I think. Calling it hunks. I'm like, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's because people going into hunks are going to expect one thing and then they're going to get spetters and it's going to be
And they're gonna
completely
get
different.
spitters.
Yeah.
It also is it's kind of twofold. It's also in reference to like the word splatter, because they are on bikes,
Okay.
and there's like splatter, like mud, like they're
Yeah.
in the dirt, kind of.
Oh, okay.
So spitters, splatter. I like the
Yeah.
title. I'm
It's
a
a great
fan.
title. Yeah.
So Bob set this up for us because I doubt that anybody's seen it. How would you describe this film to somebody who has no idea what it is?
Okay. It follows three friends that I would assume they're like early 20s.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
kind
seem college aged.
yeah, you can tell they're not necessarily teenagers, but they all still live at home. And I think that's which is very common in Europe is that you kind of like stay on until like maybe your late 20s.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're all like living at home, and the three main guys that are like best friends are all pursuing motocross racing. There's the one friend. Is it? I actually wrote this down, but it's Rien, Eve, and
Eve
Hans.
and Hans.
Yeah.
Yes, those are the
And
3 BFFs.
yeah, and I think it's Rien is the like star motocross racer, and Eve is like the mechanic who's like, always around, and Hans is sort of like the more dopey kind of like
Nice guy.
he wants to be a star as well, but it's not really working out for him.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're pursuing motocross racing. Reen's doing really well. He's starting to get sponsorships, and then they meet this woman, Fient, who works at a like a chip stand kind of food van kind of thing that she operates with her gay brother,
Mhm.
who I can't remember his name, but they operate the van. She meets him. Or sorry, she meets the three guys. She falls in love with Rain. They kind of have a relationship. And so that's sort of the first 45 minutes of the film. You kind of get a sense of their overall life, like their girlfriends, the things they like to do for fun. But there's always, maybe every 5 or 10 minutes, it seems like something really kind of transgressive happens and it sneaks up on
Your
you like,
favorite word, Bob?
ooh, yeah. It's like the spice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the first things you see, and I think this is what initially led the film to getting a lot of flack when it came out, was there's a really brutal like gay bashing scene. So the three friends and their girlfriends pull up on these two guys, and I think they like put makeup all over their faces and they beat them up and everything. It's
Yeah,
it's
lipstick.
horrible. And it's interesting because that's the point for me where you really can't deny anymore that like this is not a regular teen sex comedy. This isn't Porky's. This isn't like National Lampoon's Animal House, and it seems like it's kind of in that sort of vein of being like a happy-go-lucky, like everyone's gonna get
Coming of
laid film.
age.
Yes, coming of
Yes.
age, like everyone's gonna get laid, like one of those films. You get to
Mhm.
that point, you're like, nah, Verhoeven's a maniac. Where is he gonna take us this time? And then it just keeps getting harder and harder. And I'd say like the second hour of the film is just pummeling.
Yeah, and I also thought of Grease too, not Grease 2, but Grease as well, because
Right.
she has posters of Danny Zuko and Sandy in her bedroom on the wall.
Right. Yeah.
So there's definitely that, and then kind of the Wanderers reminded me of it too. But
Okay.
this is obviously, since it's Paul,
Yeah.
you're not gonna you're not gonna have any sort of wholesome quality for
Right.
musical numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes hard, like Bob said, and then it kind of keeps descending.
Mm-hmm.
Once it starts descending, it just keeps going. But I
Yeah.
feel like everything had a purpose.
Yeah.
So it's not as though he's just doing stuff just to shock you.
No. No.
It's
Yeah.
it's purposeful.
Everything is 100% part of the story. It's all like accelerating the story, and it all seems to have, I don't know if I would want to say metaphorical aims necessarily, but they all have purpose behind them. You know, every violent act is sewn into like that character. Like this is the end that that character met because of the trajectory they were on, and we didn't see that coming because we thought we were watching a happy-go-lucky, sex comedy.
Right.
And I don't know if I want to say it's necessarily reality that gets the best of them. I think in my review I said it was like he subjected a movie to these people because it's all like very cinematic. But you could make the argument that like, yeah, like if you go down those paths, like you might actually meet that kind of violence or disappointment or whatever.
Right. Well, and it also, I read that Verhoeven like based it on homosexual biker gangs that were very
Mm.
violent.
Oh, okay.
So he based it off of something that was going on in the news, I
Wow.
mean, where it was like real life. And I quoted him as saying something I found interesting was that his
Hmm.
Dutch movies are often based on real life events, and then as he got into more mainstream stuff, it was fantasy. And they
Oh,
were like
okay.
more made up worlds.
Yeah.
But I think he's always trying to give us something that's true and then commenting on it in
Hmm.
his own way, and then asking us to do the same, like confronting us with it and saying, okay, now you judge this.
Right, right. So he based it off of homosexual violent
By
gangs, biker gangs.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of other things that are going on, but
Yeah.
normally those two things aren't um associated, like homosexuals and violence is
Well,
typically not. I wouldn't.
no, I
You
mean it
go
makes
ahead
me
with that,
think
Bob.
of like Kenneth Anger. He has a couple early shorts that are kind of like that, where it's sort of like the eroticization is, if that's the right word, of
That's the
like
word.
masculinity, like hyper masculinity, and like it's almost like the ritual sort of like biker gang. You know what I mean? Like a biker gang is like this like token of masculinity, of like an aesthetic of masculinity. Um,
Mm.
it seems like he got that idea, or he saw these like violent homosexual gangs, and it was okay. Sorry, so are they violent towards themselves, these gangs, or like
No,
they're going out like beating up people?
no, like towards other gangs.
Okay,
Like it was one gang in particular that was like that's why I said it reminded me of the Wanderers, because there were so many gangs and they were all trying to like
right.
outbeat each other. I think there was just one that he had read about in the news that had committed like
Okay,
murders and violent acts in the town.
okay.
But I mean, in this case, it's more focused on one character who is violent, but sort of understandably so, based on his past and what we see his home life is like.
Right, right. And I noticed you're
So
being
it makes
very
more sense.
careful with that.
I know. I told Bob at the beginning, like
Yeah,
I feel like we can't really talk about this without spoiling certain elements.
yeah.
So So don't listen to us right now if you want to go in completely cold. But Bob, you go ahead. I want you to tell us what it is that's most meaningful for this movie for you, why you picked it. And so if you need
Most
to include those kinds
meaningful.
of elements,
Yeah,
then
I
go ahead.
mean, I think it's I sort of took all three characters as having, like, how do I put this? Like, something about all three characters really resonated with me.
Mm,
And again, it's hard to talk about because I don't want to spoil the film or anything. Um, but each character has sort of like, they have to kind of come to terms with something about their life, whether it's realizing that life is full of disappointments, or realizing that there's some sort of like form of repression that you have to deal with, or some form of abuse you have to deal with, and how to negotiate that. Yeah, it's pretty imaginative where he takes these characters. I'd even say that Hans is probably the least shocking in the way he goes, but he's the what happens with his character seems to really deflate any sort of romantic uh like goal that comes from the film. Like, I think Fient is thinking one of these guys is going to save her, right?
yes.
By the end of the film, it just becomes one of those things like, fine, I'll just settle, you know? And it
Right.
completely deflates any sort of like Hollywood romance that we would expect from a film like this, you know?
Yeah, and her character is extremely interesting. She's like very business savvy, sort of a go-getter. She wants to get out of her circumstance. She doesn't want to
Yeah.
just be, poor and stuck in the thing with her brother,
Yeah.
in the business with her brother. So she's also sort of the heart and soul of the movie, propelling it forward.
Hmm.
And I found that that was a commonality between your two films, that
Oh,
you
interesting. Okay.
you had two strong female characters.
Gotta have it.
You gotta have it.
Yeah.
What's a film without a strong
Yeah, hell
female
yeah.
lead?
I think
Yeah.
one of the saving graces of Spetters, really, is her
Hmm.
character, because her character, you almost understand her the most of anyone, you know?
Right.
Like, she has, as you said, like these clear defined goals, and she's a very strong person, you know? She's willing to
Hmm.
like deal with a lot. The way that they introduce you to her and her brother, she takes no bullshit, you know?
I
Those
know.
those like greaser guys that are trying to like steal from her or something, and she just like pours the fry grease on them.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Give me my money. Give me my
Yeah.
money
And what is
right
it, like
now."
$5 or something? But no, that's the thing. You let people get away with that once and they keep taking advantage of you. And she's learned that, you know?
Well, and this is kind of how his films are. Like, they
Hmm.
kind of all have that kind of quality where the person is in your face and there's this forceful energy to them.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
one writer referred to it as his vulgar vitality, and I felt like that was apt.
Ooh. So sorry, this is Verhoeven's Vulgar Vitality?
Yeah, like anytime that his films are like Friedkin is who I always think of, where there's
Okay.
just a visceral force to them.
Yeah.
There's an in your face nature that's very undeniable. You might hate it, but you are going to react.
Mm, interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought this Paul Verhoeven hat last summer
Uh-huh.
online, and there's a quote on the back that's something like "All human is evil" or something. And I
Uh-huh.
found the full quote of it, and he basically was saying how like the human is like a horrible being because like we can't stand nothing bad happening. Like, we get bored with it. We just want to see things happening to people,
Mm.
and I feel like his films really exemplify that. It weirdly enough reminds me of did you ever play the game The Sims?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I'm sure you had a day where you're like, I'm gonna put everyone in like a brick room, and I'm gonna try to make everyone make out with each other, and like you just immediately were going to, okay, what's like the weirdest, darkest things that I can make these things do? You know, it's like we have that
Mm.
part of our minds that we can't turn away from, you know. And he sort of indulges in that in a weird way. That's like, what if we play with that, but we also kind of investigate? certain ideas and certain characters and certain tropes, And what if we pull apart like genre? What if we pull apart like the way we structure a film? You know what I mean? Like we dissect these things while also still playing with like these sensational elements.
It's very similar to like what everything you just said could also be said about David Lynch. I feel like Lynch
Oh, okay.
does he does exactly that. I think I prefer Paul just because he seems to have a stronger conviction and less ambiguity, which is preferable to me.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
Lynch is also like that, wouldn't you say?
Lynch, I would say, is way more ambiguous. I think
yes, exactly.
I think Lynch is more. He wants you to be lost so that you're completely in touch with the like sensations of the film.
And your subconscious.
Yeah, your subconscious. That you know, he's not going to give you a map. He's going to let you construct your own map from what you're watching. I think Verhoeven is a little bit more like his films are like Trojan horses in a way. I think that he wants to present something that is what you assume to be like a normal film, and then presents like ideas and feelings that are really uncomfortable. I think that's why when I finally saw Basic Instinct a couple of years ago, I was really disappointed by it because it didn't have enough of a Trojan horse for me. I kept thinking the whole time, like, someone's going to say cut and we're going to zoom back and see the entire film set, right? Like, this is just way too artificial and I guess you could say clean. But yeah, because to me, like, RoboCop feels like that a perfect example of, he's making this like cheesy sci-fi action horror film, and yet there's a lot of angst and cynicism and satire to it all that you just would not expect.
Like Total Recall too.
Yeah, for sure. And so for me, like, I was thinking about this when I was taking notes for Spetters, how there's something about Verhoeven's films where once you see one of them and then you go to another one, you kind of have like a different perspective that you wouldn't normally have. And so I think if you were to go and just watch his Hollywood films and then go watch Spetters, you're probably going to get a different reaction from it had you only just seen Spetters,
Exactly. Yes. And this is why I really want to see The Fourth Man. And I
still need to see that one.
Soldier of Orange.
Yeah, same. I need to see that one.
Yeah, his Dutch films seem to be sort of because he had so much trouble with them that he fled. I mean, he basically was like, screw this, I'm going to make the films I want, because even for this one they had an anti-Spetters
right
like association where they were trying to get rid of it, and calling him all sorts of terrible things and saying, and it's like, obviously somebody who would have those sentiments would have made a different film. He does sympathize, and he is trying to find the truth of these matters in his own way. And so that's why I can stomach it.
Well,
I can see that.
Are we going to get into more of that, or of like why it was so maligned, I guess? Like,
that's up to you.
Yeah, no, because as Amy and I were saying earlier, because there's a third person in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, that it's almost impossible to talk about without spoiling the film. But Amy came up with a really good comparison of Straw Dogs.
Yes.
Yeah, because what happens in Straw Dogs that stirred up a lot of controversy kind of happens in this, although I'd say contextually it's pretty different. It just basically it deals with sexual assault, and it deals with a reaction to it that you're almost not supposed to feel comfortable with, even if it's painted in a positive way. But even then, I'm kind of not doing it justice. It's like go ahead.
No. I think that you're right. I think that's a good way to put it. That it's like you are presented with a situation where someone reacts to something that stereotypically you would feel wrong to say that someone could react that way, but that is how it's presented.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to deal with it in your own mind, just like Peckinpah does.
Because it's a situation where you have to start to break down, was there any amount of consent really happening here? If we look at the character's trajectory throughout the whole film, because as you said, Amy, there's signs all along about that what if that was something that was being sought out? Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and I think that's really interesting. It's I mean, it's provocative as fuck.
It is, and he isn't shying away from anything. I think that's
No.
maybe the difference between this and Basic Instinct for you too. It'd be
Mm,
it feels more constrained, and
yeah.
Spetters is just very. There's a part when the guys are trying to say who gets to sleep with the girl first, and they literally
Yeah.
have a dick measuring contest.
Right.
Literally, like,
Yeah.
together. And so and it's like, he's
Yeah.
not just implying that such thing would happen, or they're not just discussing it. It actually does.
Yeah.
And we see it. And so there's something I really respect about that.
Totally. Yeah.
Even though it might be off-putting.
Well,
Might be.
I think we're kind of coming to a point where we've seen so much violence and exploitation of women in film that it gets to the point where I just find it refreshing when it's like, oh, okay, there's more violence towards men in this. Oh, there's way more male nudity in this, which I think is definitely the case. I also think for a film that, like, before I saw this film, I assumed that the backlash was due to the gay bashing scene in the beginning, because I think that a lot of people were upset by it. But I felt like the film depicts homophobia in the worst possible light, and then shows so much male nudity that you're like, I don't think this director is trying to be anti-gay whatsoever. I don't think that
No.
that's a sentiment that you're supposed to walk away from this with,
No. And it's the same thing that happened with Elle, and probably, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Benedetta for him later, is that he just gets accused of these things that somebody who, it just doesn't even logically make sense, because
Yeah.
somebody who was in that position would not be doing this.
Right.
Would not be showing it.
Yeah. I mean, with Al, it's like Al was one that I got to the end of and was like, I think that was okay that he said that. What did he even really say? You know?
Hey, he's got Isabel on his side. I will. Anytime that she's a part of anything, I am kind of incapable of critiquing it too hard, because if she agreed, it's kind of like the piano teacher, and also that great movie she was in, La Cérémonie, however you say that in French.
Oh, what's his name? Claude Chabrol film?
It might be.
Is it?
I only know it's French, and she's a kooky character in it.
She and another woman like team up to kind of kill this rich family.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Yeah.
Oh, so yes. So if she consents to anything, I know that you're sort of meant to take this at a certain face value.
Right.
But
but
Bob.
Oh, sorry. Quick little, because you said Huppert.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little detour here. Verhoeven had an amazing anecdote about Elle, that working with Isabelle Huppert, he said that they'd be filming a scene, and then she would just continue doing the next scene, like in that same room. But because of the way that she was self-directing it and how good it was, he just would let her go. He'd be like, she rules. This is awesome. Yeah. Just keep the camera rolling.
She just has instincts that I don't think can be taught. No. Even in, like, I watched 8 Women with Frank, and that movie is a musical, and it's kind of silly, and she's like totally different, and you can still tell that she just knows what to do.
Yeah.
Like, she has a presence, and I know she had said, like, she never took an acting class. She just had so much confidence about her that she would just walk in a room and assume she was going to be hired. And if they didn't say yes, she'd be like, well, that's your loss.
Wow.
And really mean it.
She's so awesome.
So, I know. I could talk about, I just watched Amateur too. Anyway.
Oh, okay, I haven't seen that. Okay.
Oh, you should.
I will.
Hal Hartley is just.
Never seen any of his films. Do I start there?
Oh, Bob.
God. What? It hasn't been something that I've been avoiding. It just hasn't happened yet.
I'm slightly terrified at what your impressions would be, because that's another one that's like a vibe one where either you are on it or you are not.
Okay.
So I would say if you start with one, you know what? Actually, I just watched Henry Fool
Okay.
by him. Start with that one
Okay.
if you're going to start with it.
Done.
Write that down.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay. So the next one is it's called Baby Blood.
Baby Blood.
It is a decade later in 1990
Yeah.
by Elaine Roback. I'm probably butchering that name because it's French.
I would have said that too. Yeah.
Okay. This is a French film, and it's wild.
Yeah.
Bob, set this up for us, and tell us what you like.
This is a completely different film. It feels more traditional in the sense of like you'd expect to see this at like a drive-in or something. But that isn't to say it's completely stupid or anything.
No,
there's some interesting ideas. Yeah.
It's very polished. It's really high quality.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Amy, it's a hidden gem.
It's a hidden gem. Come on, guys. Come on.
So it kind of starts a little bit like Dead Alive, which I know you hate, but which is funny. When I watched it the other day, I was like, "Oh crap! This starts out like Dead Alive." I hope Amy's okay.
Oh,
with that.
Brain Dead, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. That's the one of the different names for it. So this animal is taken from somewhere in Africa. I didn't check. I didn't see where they said it was from, but it's brought to a circus where this woman it works with her piece of shit husband, boyfriend, whatever. Yeah, he's extremely abusive, and she seems like she's ready to get the fuck out of there. So yeah, they have this lion that's at the circus, and the lion turns out to have this like creature inside of it, and the creature gets out and finds its way into the woman, and then the woman is now impregnated with this creature, and she gets the hell out of Dodge, steals all the money, and goes to live in the city. I don't know if it was supposed to be Paris, but this film does take place in France. And she now has this creature that lives inside of her that's, it's like she's getting a baby bump as she goes, but this creature is talking to her and saying, like, I need blood. So she has to start killing off people to drink the blood to feed this like baby creature inside of her. So as I said, like it has a very B movie, like creature feature sort of vibe to it, but there is something just distinctly French as well, which I think is what makes it look sophisticated in an unexpected way. There's a lot of nudity. And there's like, would you say this is like a feminist film?
Yes.
All right.
It reminded me of Hellraiser in the sense that she has to bring people to get murdered.
Right. Yeah, that's a good call. Okay.
Yeah, she brings people to him so that he can kind of get his strength up, except in this case it's inside, but still.
Yeah.
Also kind of Rosemary's Baby a little bit.
I can see that.
And then definitely female centric. And once you hear the thing talking, I read in your review that you watched this in French and then you watched it dubbed.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask you, because I think that it's perfect the way that it is in French, because it does give it that sophisticated quality and kind of like an exotic quality. And then for the dubbed, you said that the aliens or whatever it is, his voice was very different, right?
Well,
in this it's kind of robotic.
Yeah, it sounds like those sort of like stereotypical fly voices, like a cartoon fly. Like it sounds like it's sped up and sort of like a robot effect on it. Yeah, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Like if a fly has a voice in a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like I find it really annoying, but in the English dub, I can't remember. Okay, I think it's Gary Oldman did the voice. Yeah, it's something crazy like that, but it's really hard to find info on that. But when you watch it, it sounds like it's him, and it actually adds a lot of like it makes it scarier.
Okay. Yeah. Because I liked how this thing sounds very otherworldly. If
Okay.
it sounded like a smooth British
Yeah, yeah.
narrator, that would be very different. But yeah,
Yeah.
maybe better. I don't
Well,
know.
I just found that original voice kind of annoying, but
Okay.
in this
I thought it was
voice,
scary.
oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
I thought
Okay, well then
it's
you're good to go. You don't need to watch
yeah.
the other one.
No, but I'm fascinated now. I have to
Yeah,
because
right,
Gary
right.
Oldman is
But then everyone else is like, "What do you mean? What are you doing over there?" Like it's the cheesy dubbing. So
oh, right.
yeah.
Right. Right. And this girl is the lead is really gorgeous in a very
Oh yeah.
interesting way. I was like, this is Bob all the way. I don't know what it's something about her
Yeah.
because she has like this very big gap in
Oh
her front
yeah,
teeth.
yeah, I love that. Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of
And
like it sort of like gives her character, like it's sort of the thing that you'd see more in I was thinking about this, like how I don't feel like women that are actors are allowed to have these like specific kind of weird features enough, and so
right.
that's why it's like refreshing to see. And she is like stunning, but she has this
Oh my
crazy
gosh.
gap tooth.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, you see she's just like naked and covered in blood quite a bit
Yeah, yeah,
and it's like a lot of blood.
yeah.
And I don't know some of the images in there. I was like, I don't think I've seen this before. I don't think I've
Really?
seen
Oh, that's so
someone do this
cool.
before.
Like what? Like
Yeah.
what?
When well, there's a scene where she's killing somebody because well this thing is telling her that that it needs blood,
Mhm.
but it's also like sort of empowering her to be able to be so violent. I
Right.
feel I don't think this is just like how she is.
No.
It's like giving her sort of this superhuman quality where she can become like a slasher murderer.
Mhm.
Anyway, so she kills somebody and she's naked when she does it, and then it just goes everywhere and she's just covered in it, and I was just like the way that it's sort of like chaotic. I
Yeah.
haven't seen but I haven't
Okay.
seen a lot of stuff, Bob, but
Oh, okay.
still. I mean, to me it was quite an image.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it was in the beginning where she was like, completely naked, covered in blood. I was like, oh man, did I subject Amy to too much this time? Like, is this too crazy?
I've seen Possession,
Right, yeah.
okay?
It's not really
I've
anything
seen
worse
the
than that.
subway scene.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean, I would say, definitely not, and because I felt like it had a point to it,
Cool.
I can do anything that has some sort of conviction in it,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I get that.
I f I feel like this is not just has nothing to say because the
Yeah.
way that they sort of converse is the most fascinating part to me. I don't know if it is to you, but the
Hmm.
way that she communicates with the thing and then how
Hmm.
she begins to change towards the end of the film as a result of being able to sort of communicate
Yeah.
on many levels is very interesting.
Yeah, I think for me those are the elements that make me go, okay, this is a hidden gem. Because it would be enough for me if it was just like the violent stuff, but then there's so many
Mhm.
aspects to it that make it, at least to me, feel sprawling. Like it's only an 80 something minute film.
Uh, yeah, it's 88 minutes,
Yeah,
yeah.
88 minutes. So with 88 minutes, they do quite a bit of legwork. Like she kind of goes all over the place. It's almost like kind of a road trip film. And
Yeah,
I think,
true.
yeah, like I just love how ambitious it feels. And for me, the second half, especially, is when I just get so into it because she's fully descended into like, okay, I'm a crazy killer, and she's just going from like the craziest places possible to just like steal blood, kill people. And then the ending, oh man, so good. Oh, you
Yeah,
weren't a
and it's
fan?
kind of
Oh,
no, I was. It's also just kind of begrudging. Like she it's almost like a metamorphosis takes place where
mm,
she is kind of not wanting to do it and she's like arguing with it, but then this thing is compelling her
yeah.
and she can't deny sort of enjoying it even though she's like angry that she's enjoying it. So
Mm,
to me, that's where the female perspective really, or not, maybe perspective is not the right word, but that struggle of like maybe enjoying things that you don't feel like you should.
Yeah.
Kind of, and then of course, like the whole pregnancy thing too, of like,
Right.
where she's like, "Oh, you talk to it too," and it's like, lady, you don't know what you're saying. She's not pregnant. She's like possessed.
Oh, so you don't think she is pregnant? She's possessed.
Well, no, I mean, there's like a scene where she's sitting on a bench with a pregnant lady who's actually pregnant, and she's like, "Oh, you speak to your child too?"
Oh, right,
and,
okay.
And it's like, no, that's not really the same thing,
Yeah.
but it could be sort of a story about that as well. How weird that is.
Yeah, it makes it hard not to think of the gender aspect of the film, you know? Like that's the thing, is like it's such an important factor to the film, and I think that's why it's like immediately giving it some level of like subtext, that it doesn't just feel like, you know, flippant spectacles, which again I'm a huge fan of. But yeah, I like a little something to chew on, you know, which is why I like Verhoeven so much.
Yes. Both of them I felt like were not just gratuitous, even though I hate that word, but they weren't just like over the top for the sake of it. It really felt like there was something deeper in there. And I do like, I mean, even like, did you like Malignant?
Yeah.
Did you see Malignant?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was on par with these films by any
No.
means.
But I'm just reminded of that in like De Palma's Sisters, where it's like, this is very clearly not about a male protagonist.
Oh, okay,
in that sense.
Gotcha, yeah.
Like they both are around women that are sort of in peril, who kind of you stop being worried about them eventually, because you're like, these people are not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
They have sort of become something else.
Yeah. It's interesting though that all of those you picked are the female protagonist has like an other with her, you know, but then they're all written by men.
True.
Yeah, it's like who's
Probably
gonna
all directed.
Well, yeah, and like who's gonna be brave enough to not give a woman the other for her to conquer the world?
You know what? What is that lady? What's the lady's name who did Raw?
Oh, Julia Ducournau. Yeah.
That's the only one I can think of.
But then she transforms her gender.
In Raw?
Yeah, not in Raw.
Or you mean like, no, Titane.
Titane, yeah.
Titane. Yeah, I think Raw would be the closest where she, I don't know if you, I don't know if that would classify as something.
I'm also not trying to like make a concrete statement against or for anything here. I'm just like a provocative question to think about, you know?
Bob doesn't want to take a stance. He doesn't want to commit to anything. He's just going to lay it all out.
I'm a very diplomatic person like that. So
yeah, that's a nice word for you, Bob. Okay. So see those two movies. It's not really an episode if I don't insult you at least once.
I know. I can take it. I can take it.
Yeah. So see his two movies, Spedders and Baby Blood. They pleasantly surprised me. These are not movies necessarily that I would normally seek out for myself. And I really dug them. And I felt like there was just a lot there.
Cool.
To digest and sort of discuss. So we're going to end this with how I end all of these episodes, so I have to say for Bob, normally what I do is I have this book, The Best Film You've Never Seen, which I'm showing everybody for those of you who aren't watching visually. I pick a film that sort of has to do loosely with what the person's covering. But when I looked at the table of contents and saw Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I thought the only person that I could cover that with was Bob.
I'm honored.
So that is the one I chose. Yeah. And it is one that you had seen and didn't hate.
Quite a few times. I've seen it in the theaters. Yeah, that to me is just like a Sunday afternoon. Turn your brain off, kick your feet up, watch some cotton candy grenades, and like It's
just to have a ball.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
you can't really dissect that film.
No, nor would I want to. I think that would take away from the charm of it. It's a 1988, speaking of 88 minutes, movie directed by the Chikotto brothers, who had like all this experience with puppets and practical effects. Like there's so many like animatronics, animatronics, and really cool like makeup and stuff in this movie. And it's the director called it a sloppy wet kiss to B movies.
Oh, that's really adorable.
So it's like an homage while also being original.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I with a title like that, you kind of just want it to be what you think it is, and
it is. Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's the set design is really good.
Oh yeah. With all the circus stuff. And I really enjoyed that I accidentally had like a circus parallel because she is a lion tamer.
Wow. Throw on some Santa Sangre and then we're all set.
What is that?
Oh, right. Well, I knew you didn't like Jodorowsky, but I didn't know if you had seen Santa Sangre, so.
What is that?
Alejandro Jodorowsky's late 80s like horror film.
Oh, and it has a circus in it?
Yeah, because you said you've seen El Topo, right? Yeah.
Yes. I have regrettably seen El Topo.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, we got to end on that note, man.
Okay, well, let's.
You got to turn it around, Bob. El Topo is a movie that is the opposite of a hidden gem. And nobody should ever see it.
It's an obvious banger.
Oh God. This is why I have Bob on the show. You know what, Bob? Okay. Honestly, if I ever had a co-host, we would have to do it, like, because you and I are very rarely aligned, I would say.
No.
But when we are, it's pretty good.
Yeah, we're like Ebert and Roper.
Instead of Siskel? Why'd you go to Roper?
I grew up watching Ebert and Roper more because like I was too little to really watch Siskel and Ebert. I feel like Siskel passed away when I was pretty young. And so even though Siskel and Ebert is like what everyone knows, I watched more Ebert and Roper. So,
It doesn't quite have the catchiness to it though, does it? Like the
I guess so. Siskel and Ebert, Ebert and Roper. It's all Ebert just like words,
It's just semantics.
Yeah, it is semantics. You're right.
Yeah. Well, Bob, it was a pleasure to have you. I hope that everybody watches all three of these films and read Bob's review. Your review of Spedders was excellent.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. It felt like you had just seen it.
Yeah.
Like, and then I think for Baby Blood, you were like, inject this into my veins, like just hook me up. Sounds like something you'd say, right? But yeah, these are very interesting, food for thought, as well as just being visually arresting. I would say.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Do you have a final pitch, Bob? Any final words?
Split Your Head podcast, YouTube, Spotify.
Oh,
we got some episodes coming out, and that's it. Yeah, live life. Go out for a walk today. Drink a lot of water.
And we'll see you at the movies.
See you there.